welcome back to this Legacy broadcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
We really appreciated all the things that you shared last week, and I know it was a blessing to a number of people. I know some of you are from here in the United States, some of you are from Singapore, China, from Malaysia, from Saudi Arabia, from all over the world, literally South Africa, Australia, Britain, and I, you know, one of the things that I know is that people are people. Doesn't matter where you go in the world, we basically have the same heart needs. And so we were talking about some of the, I think, deep heart needs this past week. And
if someone missed it last week, how would they?
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate you keeping me on track there. Last week, we talked to Kristi. Kristi's husband, Billy Hobbs, was killed in an accident, a motorcycle accident, which Kristi describes as the sovereign hand of God at work. But this tragedy that she went through, we talked about Billy's life some and what you went through, your relationship with Billy, and y'all have been married for 15 years. And then we talked mostly about how you dealt with that. Right. And so we want to pick up where we left off last week, I think. And so if you have gone through something, or you know someone who's gone through a deep hurt in their life, sorrow, they need to be listening to this. And by the way, I would encourage people to go to our archives. If you'll go to where it says media on the web, and just go to the archives, and you'll find this archive there, and you'll be able to get
webcast.
Under webcast or podcast, whichever way you're listening to it. If you're doing it by just audio, it's podcast, and webcast if you're watching it. So go there, and you'll find podcast and webcast. Go to the archives, and the most recent one was that last session, and we've just been having a conversation, really just talking about what happened, how you dealt with that. And why don't we pick up there? And we were talking about friends. You had friends and family. One of the things that I remember, Kristi, when Billy was killed, and I told Tex, we talked about this quite a bit. God had done something to build a wall of protection around you. But you had also made some decisions. In other words, you had gotten involved in church. You had a group of people to go to. Your family was near. You had your family, of course, and they lived very close to you. But also you had a church family. Yes. And Christians, you had not separated yourself from God's people. And because of that, you had Christian friends that really kind of stepped up to the plate. Now, we didn't talk about this last week, but you had, I think you started, or you had a group of ladies that are widows at the church.
Yes.
Is that right? Now, and I'm assuming you were the youngest one out of all those widows.
I am the
youngest.
Right.
And y'all started meeting together and just having some time of sharing. Is that right?
Right. Actually, Lida Smith, who's our women's minister at our church, came to me and asked me to pray about beginning a widows ministry at our church. We have a wonderful women's ministry, and but we didn't have anything for widows particularly. And so as we prayed about it, the Lord gave me, she asked me to pray about vision and all, and the Lord gave me the title Widow's Oil out of 1 Kings. And the widow's oil never runs out. The Lord continually supplies. And I remember a verse that Shirley gave me early on. I believe it's 1 Timothy 5 says, "A widow in need and left all alone puts her hope in God and continues night and day to pray and to ask God for help." And so we began almost a year ago. Actually, it was August the it was 1 year to the day of Billy's homegoing that we started it, August 21st of last year. And we meet the third Sunday of every month, and we just get together, and we have a speaker. We met last Sunday, and a woman from Tony Evans' church in Dallas came. She had been a widow for 8 years and just shared a message of hope and really encouraged us. And then it's just a time to get together and fellowship.
Now, just so, because there are two ways people are hearing this broadcast. One is through video; they're watching it on the web, and the other is they're listening to it. So the people who are listening to it can't see you, and and there's nothing wrong with this. I'm just trying to get the context here. But you're not 70 years old, are you?
No.
I'm doing this very nicely. I'm not asking you how old you are, but
I'll volunteer that. I'm 38. Yeah, I was widowed at 36.
Okay, and so you were what we would consider to be a young widow.
Right.
And so that in itself produces, I think, a particular type of hurt. And also, you didn't have any children.
Right.
So I don't know, loneliness. How do you deal with loneliness?
It's difficult at times, easier at others. But as we discussed last week, the Lord has surrounded me with godly friendships. And one thing I'm so grateful for, I heard actually from Elizabeth Elliot a article that she had written. I read that early on, and it stunned me, and fear almost gripped me, because she was saying, you just have to come to realize that your couple friends, the friends that you and your husband had together as couple friends, will no longer. You'll have to make single friends now. And to this day, that word single, it's hard for me. But for some reason, and I'm just so grateful to the Lord, that has not happened to me. You and Tex, as we discussed last week, continue to have our Wednesday night Cracker Barrel time, just like we did with the four of us, and I still. But
this is not publicity for Cracker Barrel. but
right.
we have had those times,
right. And so friends have played such an important part, and still those couple friends, and actually a friend recently told me that her husband enjoys spending time with the two of them with me, because when they're with me, they feel like they're with Billy. So perhaps that's the reason. I don't know, but the Lord has blessed me in that area.
What about working outside the home? And many women will maybe have to go to work if they haven't, or we're in the process of already working outside the home. How does that play into the picture?
Well, as you said earlier, how the Lord almost prepared me and surrounded me. We moved back. The accident happened in 2004, and we had moved back from Amarillo in 2002, and I had really never worked outside the home before that. But when we came back, Pastor David was in need. His secretary was getting ready to move to Virginia, and so he and Shirley came over and asked Billy and I to pray about me becoming his assistant and the prayer ministry coordinator. And we didn't see then what an amazing role this would play for what the Lord knew what was going to happen.
He was sovereign. Yeah,
he was sovereign even in that, because not only was it a place of ministry in the church office, but because it wasn't a corporation, which the Lord can use that as well. But they said you take as much time off as you need. You come back when you're ready. And even in those days, about a month after the Lord took Billy home, I went back, and I'd be at my computer, and Billy also officed in the church office, as you knew, and sometimes he'd come up behind me and scare me, and I remember that first day I'm at my computer, and I just began to weep, and I was like, I want Billy to come up behind me and scare me, and